Act 3 will have much in it. Besides the finale of it, of course. Let's make a start on that. Sometime after, we see a fire in what looks like a wok. As An Ying described it, the simple-looking item is the concept incinerator, where it can remove all memory of whatever technology or specifically the design of it was thrown into it. And as we've seen, it can also remove any recipes that was recorded in or on what it can burn. She was asking what it was doing there. Song Hyo then gave an announcement that proved Ayn Rand. Yes, that's one. Ayn Rand. The objectivist author whose works were loosely adapted into Bioshock. She was proven right when she wrote that to some, when there aren't enough criminals to crack down on, they make them. In this case, Sang Hyo defined this as them receiving an official notice that private technological invention groups of 5 or more people not registered as a business require a permit from T Corp, where any technology not authorized by T Corp's tech agency will be confiscated. Was this planned all along to draw them in and allow T Corp to gain some free tech without efforts? Or was it fairly recent and them wanting to exert their power? I don't think it matters which that was, as the end result is the same. She also saw that it makes no difference if it's registered or taken by force. They'll be used in ways that none of them wanted. Much like An Ying with her ID tags, intended to help children to find their parents, turned into another invisible shackle in the workplace. She sees it better to destroy their designs, rather than let them fall into the hands of T Corp. An Ying asking why now? Asking if it's because of their gatherings, or is it because of the glass window? Dong Rang suspected that it was because technology was made in secret, believing that T Corp might give them approval. Seriously? What is he taking? Whatever it is, I want to avoid it. Sang Hyo saw this as foolish. The reason why the League of Nine was established was for the pure pursuit of knowledge, not to serve wings like pathetic mules. It's the reason why they deserted their hometowns, and he's suggesting that they yield their knowledge? After what? After all they've been through? Dong Rang asked her to see the bigger picture, rather than just T Corp. Wouldn't the city as a whole be benefiting from them? Technology only has value when used by others. Until then, they're mere toys. With the healing technology that he's developed, he could save at least hundreds of lives in the city. Dong Baek told him not to make clumsy attempts, unless he's planning to save everyone in the city. If she thought that this technology had what it took to give every single person the help that they needed, she would have given her all for it. But it would change nothing. The world would still be a terrible, grim-dark mess. This made Dong Rang think what the point in all that was. He observed something burning in the concept incinerator, which he considered good at burning things, asking if the creator of it was a researcher who had an ardor for genuine study like them. Later, Yi Sang asked if Dong Rang was alright, He told Yi Sang to check something out, chancing upon a curious thing in the back streets, an item that a wing called K-Corp was producing. A swarm of nanobots that looks like liquid, and when it's ejected, no matter how or even what your physical condition was, it heals everything up in seconds. Even pain disappears quickly. He found it fine to be hurt. He didn't have to strain his body and heart to cure things, seeing himself as stupid for doing so. This concerned Yi Sang. After this, the damned dozen had to take on the drifting fox, a fox-like abnormality that had umbrellas embedded in itself and used said umbrellas in combat. This is tied to a Korean folktale. Another one to say for the abnormality lore video, although the EGO is apparently more effective when sanity is lower. Now that's a knife-edge identity, isn't it? Yi Sang noticed that there was wilting among the 9, those who indulged in research with purity and astonishment on their faces, as they did in the old days, have already withdrawn their buds. In exchange, unfamiliar sounds began to fill the air. Orderly footsteps, sounds of wind-up keys that signified their position, and heavy low voices. Sang Hyo asked why. Why did An Young tell T-Corp of the League's location? According to An Young, any would do the same in his position. If he didn't reveal the source of the technology, he'd be forcefully repatriated to District 19. Dong Baek then told him that he should have braced for it, have the guts to withhold that information and possibly die if he couldn't stand to survive alone in his hometown. Yes, his hometown. If it was that good, none of them would be there. Sometime later, An Ying asked why those people were dragging her away, asking why it's a crime that she couldn't yield her technology. Simple. They made it a crime, telling them that her technology was worthless. They said it themselves, begging Yongji for help. She didn't want to go. Yongji saw only one way, no matter how hard they think about it. It'll be all over once he goes back, if he gives away the glass window. Dong Baek finished that sentence that if he's caught, the League will have had it. Who knows what they'd do with his technology once it falls into their hands. I'm thinking Orwellian nightmare on a scale only rivaled by the beholders. Voices of desperation, rather, change nothing. There were those who rejected the notion of just yielding their creations. Then Mersault knew it was his turn. He didn't expect to ever see them again. Then Gregor was bored of living in hiding, deciding to go his own way, hoping that they never meet again. They were those who left on their own. Then Faust saw a child who resembled the ocean. It wasn't like the glass window or the mirror. She liked the things reflected on the waves and tides of the ocean. She couldn't fathom the depths of the waters. She decided to follow along. There were those that forever disappeared, leaving unknowable parting remarks. Then winter approached. Ishmael saw this as a painful experience. It was like she actually was a member of the League of 9. Faust saw this as... she saw this as natural. That the traces would influenced them as they were synchronizing with their memories. After that, they saw a night sky with stars and a shooting star fell. They decided to make a wish, hoping it would give them something that would help them. There was a chance that it would. They also saw some mysterious figures in the window, talking to them. They writhed and disappeared, and a fragment fell from the window. They left the room with it. Yi-sang understood that each of them wanted to protect a different point in time. Some wished it to stop where it was. Some wished it to advance. In his case. Then the door was pounded loudly by someone's hand. It was one of T-Corp's Class 2 collectors, who had received a report that they're in possession of unauthorized technology. Youngji was sent a letter in advance by Dongbik to seek refuge. They must hide the glass window and the mirror in the basement before they take them. She and Dongrang would carry them to safety. The rest of them would hold the door while they did this. The collectors eventually burst through, and a Class 4 collector in steampunk Victorian attire made his intentions clear, and his cane was not just for show. He asked where Youngji was, knowing that he was their leader, and also of his glass window technology. Dongbik was silent, and this collector saw this as the price they paid for spending time wrongly. And this has additional meaning considering their singularity, and the fact that time is the most valuable commodity in existence, certainly to T-Corp. Then he told them to open the door to the basement. Dongbik asked how they knew about the basement. It was clear that one of them betrayed the League of Nine. Dongbik, suspected Gap-Myung, as he was nowhere to be seen the previous day. Song-Hyo doesn't see this as something that matters, they need to run now. So Dongbik treated them to a stunning fireworks display for the last time. Fire can be a rather pretty flower when seen from a distance. Sang-Hyo suspected what she was planning. She asked the others for the last time if any of them were traitors. Yi-sang had no doubt about that. Sang-Hyo saw that as ridiculous. Dongrang was silent. Then he admitted to selling the League out. Then Dongbik set off the fireworks inside the workshop, which started a fire and scorched half of her face. Their League burning down in a colourless fire. Yi-sang then corrected Dongrang, as he never confessed the truth to Dongbik. She seemed oblivious to it. She constantly harboured suspicion against them, knowing that it must have been one of them. Then we shift to the screening room, and he spoke to her, or at least an echo of her, saying that he ratted out the group. Dongbik then realised the truth too late. That revelation was what coloured Dongbik's dying eyes with wrath, causing the frail Ichio to break and fall, snapping, scattering into petals. Then Dongrang spoke of how the loud sound of clocks at the front door were a sign that T-Corp's tech agency employees had come to your house. Most were visited by them, although he couldn't have known. Yi-sang couldn't have known, as he was under T-Corp's grace as a skilled architect. Then Dongrang continued that the first visit was sudden and quiet. Most were flustered by this, but still kept their pride and faith as a League member. The tech agency knows that as well. The first visit was a case of psychological warfare to install the fear that they'll come whenever they liked without any notice. The second visit was when things changed, as they know where time flows from and where it's headed. They have past, present and future, the shape of weaknesses and desires, asking what could have been his choice under the same circumstances. What would he have chosen differently, and if so, can he say for sure that he would have? He had the motivation. He saw technology as useless if it wasn't applied, and he did encourage them to cooperate with T-Corp when a few would rather destroy what they had rather than give it to that wing, or indeed any wing. But why would Dongrang rat them out? Well, let's get into that. A different Class 2 collector was speaking with Dongrang earlier, before the Class 4 collector visited the League of Nine. He spoke of organics. In particular, he asked if the regeneration and treatment of animals were his interests. He spoke to Dongrang that K-Corp, a wing that they've been working with recently, it was emerging at that time, whose nest was filled with an emerald glow, was a wing that might be interested in his technology. Dongrang gave nothing away. The collector told him that this was not a common opportunity. He agreed, and he rose through the ranks to be in the position that he was in now. His 30 pieces of silver. Back in the remains of the laboratory, Yisang asked if he accomplished his wish there at last. Dongrang was silent. I doubt it. It was likely a Pyrrhic victory at best. After Dongbig's firework display, it shattered everything that was there, and everything came to a halt for Yisang as well. To stop meant to cease caring, a state of indifference, which was the typical attitude for many in the city, although it was implied that in this case it was worse than usual. It no longer mattered if he was weathered and stomped, but there was someone that held him by the arm. It was Gubo, asking if he's going to stand still and let T-Corp's tech agency take him away. Someone like him. Has he finally gone mad? Telling him that he must come with him. Yisang nodded, having no strength to fight back. He'd let himself be taken by the tech agency employees if Gubo told him to do so. The same would apply if he told him to put all the mirror technology into the concept incinerator, along with hiding on the spot and pretending that he knew nothing. Yisang didn't know how many of them survived and ran away. Then we switched to a clearly elderly Stefanette, who told the tearful thing not to be so sad. She doesn't want to use the tears to fight the flow of time, implying that they can reverse aging. She sees the tears as better reserved for those who need them more dearly, telling him not to forget that he's a nameless star, hanging in the sky for everyone who is in suffering. Then she died, and with her passing, a prudish K-Corp executive expressed their deepest condolences, honoring her noble will. Alfonso asked why the need to be so roundabout. What they really want to say is which one of them is going to be the next chief executive. This made the prudish executive think. The impulsive executive was surprised by this. The nomination should be simple. What did each of them do? How much did it help to contribute to the growth of the wing and its nest? Impulsive stated that Stefanette was struggling to even speak due to her age. They started extracting the tears in her stead. Prudish wasn't impressed, as they had their men buy and read gut-wrenching and heart-warming stories out loud. The tear production went down since then. I really hope they don't find the Twilight Saga. That'd destroy the tear production more. Impulsive asked if they were serious. Then Prudish was attacked by Impulsive, who told the deceased Prudish that it's what they get when they run their mouth rashly. They knew their temper, and still decided to play with fire. Now, if some career politician or executive tried that in reality, there would most likely be criminal charges. Well, thankfully for Impulsive, the Project Moon universe is not reality. Prudish told them with their dying breath that the board of directors won't let them get away with that. Impulsive would make sure that they're finished before that happens. Alfonso spoke of Stefanette, so kind even after she was gone. The tears don't have to be extracted by noble means after all. She had the answer. Where to take the seat of chief executive, the simple thing to do is to ensure the prosperity of K-Corp. All that's left now is for the board of directors to cast their votes. The votes, of course, favoured Alfonso. Even considering that, with the passing of Stefanette and Prudish, the two remaining ethical members of K-Corp's board of directors, the ethical means of producing tears died with them. This made Don Quixote object to this. It appalled her greatly to think that one must suffer everlasting sights of despair and captivity for the many. Faust told her that their pleas wouldn't reach them. This didn't come from Yisang. This was a fragmented scene concerning the tears. Dongrang added that this singularity has saved countless lives. Someone fulfilling his dream that he couldn't. Radia was silent at this, but she didn't like this. Dongrang believed that if he was in that vat, he'd gladly give up everything he had with no exception. All they do is look at it with gratitude and respect. Well, all they should do. Like looking up at the stars in his hometown. Well, one thing that sociopaths are known for is that they're habitual liars. After that, they fought the shock centipede, a metallic insect that ruptures its foes and could handle quite a bit of punishment. They prevailed against this, and then kept moving. Yi Sang then spoke of an overlong silence, shrouding the passage of time. All his time there, a mere adjunct. In the square wholly painted white, only 2 visitors came to see him. One visited in a square within a square, a cube. The other visited in the square within a square within a square, a hypercube. Gubo told him that he's free to do his research there. The mirror he seemed to love so dearly, telling him not to forget to eat his meals and supplements every day. None were left to gaze at the mirror and enjoy its sight. It ceased to be a tool of amusement, yet he still held on to it. Largely, it's to maintain what sanity remained in him. Sang Yi told him that he wouldn't even talk to Gubo these days. grasping at the mirror all day long. He just stared at Yi Sang's back before leaving. His face didn't have a good expression. It didn't concern Yi Sang. He'd much rather face Sang Yi and talk to him, wanting him to turn away when he does. Sang Yi asks if he knows that Gubo cares about him. Yi Sang was apparently the biggest reason why he joined the League of Nine before it fell apart. But was he a spy scouting out talent? I'm awfully suspicious that he was able to get both of them into N-Corp that quickly. Anyway, Yi Sang didn't think that Gubo cared about him, as he cared the most about himself. He chanced upon him while looking for things to make him stand out. Sang Yi told him to let him do that. He can be under his limelight as long as he's standing next to him. Apparently, N-Corp's director has been trying to form a new League of Nine with Yi Sang, Gubo, and Azia as part of it. Yes, Azia from Leviathan. Yi Sang can't call it that, as its roots are different. A borrowed name that it would need to return one day, where instead of pure research for its own sake, it's research on N-Corp's terms. Yi Sang simply replaced one prison with another. The main difference is that N-Corp was imprisoning him, not T-Corp, which isn't much of a difference. Yi Sang asked about the affairs outside. With his wings, he could be anywhere he liked. Sang Yi summed it up with the same tiring stuff. The world always flows with the same current. The League used to be bound by strong solidarity. Now it's disbanded. Yi Sang saw no point in feeling joy or despair over every passing moment. After that, the damned dozen then encountered the brazen bull, which was an egg not that long ago. They ran away from it. They can either run to what looks like a dead end and escape, or have a rematch with that abnormality. Whatever the case, they continued with learning about Yi Sang's past. Honglu asked what Gubo wanted to do with the mirror. Yi Sang answered by saying what exactly N-Corp wished to do. He doesn't know in detail, then again, he didn't bother asking either. Herman appeared, asking if he likes it there. Is it comfortable? Is he keeping himself fed? Yi Sang was silent, and Gubo explained this as him being a reticent man. Then Herman revealed what N-Corp wanted of Yi Sang: to find a way to destroy all the worlds and the myriad possibilities they represent in the mirror and the glass window. Yi Sang was hesitant to answer. Herman took that as a no. She was telling him what to study. Even if he says no, she has plenty of other ways. She's asked nicely for his friend's sake and asks them to keep this between them. She's asking if the two are still reluctant to rejoin the League. Azia didn't seem to care either way, but two of them were more difficult. Gubo was confident that they'd make up their minds soon. Gubo saw that the new League would be more powerful than ever, backed by Herman, the G-Corp remnants that also ruined Gregor's life, along with so many others with the biomimetic weapons. Then Gubo asked what his problem was. Was he hesitant to take the offer without Dongrang and Dongbek to accompany him? asking him if he doesn't really see that he can only set his mind at ease once he makes his stance clear. Yi-Sang's mind it hadn't changed from before. This mildly annoyed Gubo. Then Yi-Sang talked with Sang Yi, who was informed of N-Corp's desire to destroy the multiverse. Gubo and Herman were pretty serious about this. Yi-Sang told him that he was right. Once they set their minds on it, it will undoubtedly be done, and he would aid him in this response. However, he doesn't want Sang Yi to perish as a result, telling him to fly away and leave before Gubo destroys him as well. Sang Yi asking what about him. Yi-Sang answered it's because he's capable of nothing. He has no wings to fly with. He has no complaints. If he mutely follows their every demand, they'll at least leave him be. All he has left is him outside the mirror. Sang Yi then said that if he suffered a loss, shouldn't he consider filling the void back up with new things? Yi-Sang saw this as peculiar, as this was all that was left of his world. How could he fill it anew? After that, Sang Yi wouldn't show up before him for a time. He questioned something. He said that this was all he had, so why make such a devastated expression as though he lost everything? Ishmael noted that it sounded like Yi-Sang in the mirror, that he wanted to keep him in that place, telling him that it's not safe outside, so he should stay there. Sink there asking why Sang Yi would do such a... Then Class 3 collectors of T-Corp appeared to seize technology created by the League of Nine, an unauthorized organization with illicit activities, telling them to present their clocks and identify themselves in detail. Dante was surprised that the tech agency staff followed them all the way to District 14. Methot didn't think so. They wouldn't chase him all the way there. These collectors were a foreign substance attempting to breach into the fathoms of ego. Then they fought the Class 3 collectors of T-Corp, which aren't supposed to be in that part of the play. Time was their friend, but it was a fickle friend, as even with their singularity and their armored bodies, they were unable to withstand the damned dozen. Then they encountered a flowering tree standing in the middle of a plain with nothing else there, with flowers blooming in earnest. They could either approach this growth or leave it alone. Sang Yi returned after some time and spoke some strange things. He told Yi-Sang that when Gubo comes back with the blue supplement, keep it stored instead of swallowing it right away. After 3 days of doing so, he'll start seeing things that he couldn't before. When that day comes, he'll have two options. The first is to chew up all of the supplements that he's gathered. He'll be in a deep sleep, the story ends, and he'll wake up and everything will return to normal, and he'll be dedicated to the mirror technology and chatting with him from time to time. The second option is to leave that place. Yi-Sang asked how he was able to accomplish this. He lacks the wings to do so. Sang Yi reasoned that a chicken might not be able to fly, but it can flap its wings, struggling endlessly. This perplexes Yi-Sang, as where would he go? He has neither a hometown or anyone to return to. Sang Yi told him to walk ceaselessly until his feet decide to stop, and make that his new home. Basically telling him that anywhere was better than where he was now. We know what he chose. He took the second option and saw a clear image. Where it was once a blur, the blue pills were clearly meant to prevent him from perceiving the way out. Yes, he could have left at any time. Then he walked through the long and narrow hallway, and he saw how his mirror was being used. A sudden wave of lassitude began to surge. If he took the supplements and fell asleep, everything would have stayed alright. He wished that there was a misunderstanding between him and Gubo. Sadly, there wasn't. Then he was about to step outside the white square, and then did so, and kept walking. As Yi Sang was about to leave that visually sterile environment, Gubo walks behind him, asking if his foolish companion decided to leave. Those words were meant for pouncing, not persuasion. They left a mark, even if they didn't hurt. Gubo continued to say that he has nowhere to return to, and he's dragging his tottering body along. Does he truly believe that he'll find a place to call home, wherever he might go? Strangely, he didn't try to stop him, telling him to enjoy his rest. He'll return once twilight arrives. With that, Yi Sang parted with Gubo, his last remaining compatriot. He was thoroughly isolated after that. Dongrang agreed with this. They all ended up alone. Only then, at long last, his turn had come. According to Sinclair, it's where, or rather when, Dongrang hands over the glass window over to Keikor. Yes, the most guilty are those that did know, those that knew what they were going to do and yet did it anyway. There's no forgiveness for him. Yes, it's the breach of morality rather than error of knowledge. Errors of knowledge can be made allowances for, but breaches of morality, no. Sinclair had enough of an understanding, being in An Jung's perspective to understand that. Then Dongrang went back to the laboratory, saying that he found it disheartening to call them children's playthings. They wouldn't be saying that once they learn that animals feel pain exactly like they did. Dong Biek then told him not to make clumsy attempts unless he plans to save everyone in the city. If she thought that this measly technology had what it took to give every single person the help that they needed, she'd have given her all for it. But he thinks that it'll change anything. The world would still be a terrible mess. Then we'd move forward to when he said that it's perfectly fine to be hurt. He didn't have to sprain his body and heart trying to cure things. He was so stupid, wasn't he? Dongrang told An Jung that he should have braced for it, had the guts to bite his tongue and die if he couldn't survive alone in his hometown. Then we shift to the tearful thing. Gregor saw it as looking like Dongrang's. Alfonso showed Dongrang the tearful thing, the source of the singularity of Keikor, asking why the surprise. He heard stories about it. It felt different to him. He didn't think that he'd come all the way there. Alfonso gets this a lot. She asked him what can he do. He started with showing the technology that he invented, or rather, pilfered. Well, in one case at least. Alfonso's expectations were high since he was a member of the League of Nine, and Yongji had disappeared and was still missing. Dongrang confirmed this. She saw it as a shame that it disbanded, but it was fortunate that they recruited one of them, with the help of a deal between him and T-Core. She saw that league as serving a plentiful shade then and now. Dongrang was reminded of a thing that would cry at him like that in the past, likely the calf. Then Alfonso asked Dongrang. Then he said the reason why he's there for. Then Ishmael figured out what that thing was. And it's confirmed to be the yellow calf, although he tried to avoid answering that question. The play was over. She's not Yarang anymore. She was too immersed and felt like she was one of the League of Nine for a second. He said that he fulfilled his wish, but it didn't seem that way to her, no matter which way she looked at it. Did he feel the same when he saved that calf? Now this was clearly a sensitive subject, as he warned her to watch her words. He didn't save that calf expecting a reward. Heathcliff was aware of this. He saved that creature right before it was crushed to death, because he felt like it. They all took turns feeding it milk, or rather the League of Nine members did, the ones that were around at the time. Dongrang saw it as okay to save lives without a price back then. Now, as the Heath Ledger version of the Joker would put it, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Dongrang also believed that it wasn't just his work that burned away in the concept incinerator that day. His mind's garden that he had been tending to burned down with it. Yisang noted that, taking a backward glance at their trails, all of them have been suffering great losses, failing to see what needed to be seen. He apologized for casting only slantwise glances. They were all falling into ruin all the time. He was no different. He didn't realize it then. Then Dongrang asked if he thinks that the cow is peacefully grazing grass somewhere right now. Urtis believed so. He's waiting for him, even if he didn't go back. Dongrang didn't think that he'd recognize him. He'd changed too much from who he was in the past, as the scenery shifted to a field. He agreed that all the trophies and awards praising his excellence were empty husks. The meaning they had was all. The dazzle they had hidden emptiness. He couldn't have gotten them, even if he wasn't a member of the League. He liked photographs. They contained the image in all its honesty. Then he had a darker look and spoke of, for however long, when he looked up at the sky, he couldn't see a thing. It was like he was under a giant shadow. Sinclair noted that he wasn't talking to them. Dante understood that it wasn't them either. Don Quixote was seeing the pattern here. Dongrang was about to distort. Faust confirmed this, and she suspected that it might not be the end, but rather a step in the process. She certainly knows more than she's saying. Sinclair asked if there was any way that they could help. Faust replied that they can stop him from going astray in that space where mental images take physical form, to help him to naturally come to accept what lies ahead, on his path. Then they fought Dongrang, who denies all, a distortion that resembles the gluttony Pekatula, much as Chroma distorted into a form that resembled the lust Pekatula. Which makes sense, as she had a hunger for having more power, basically. She had a lust for it, and Dongrang had a hunger for recognition. To make use of the technology, regardless of whether or not those wielding it have the best interests of others at heart. He was a quadruped that, like Chroma, didn't make it easy for the damned dozen, even though, unlike Chroma, he had no combat experience. The final part of Chapter 4 lore shall continue. The Last Stand of Dongrang. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!